Apple, 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 Apple,
Apple.
Apple, Apple.
Apple.
Sorry about that.
I'm not.
Okay.
All right, surprise, surprise. We're going to be talking about Apple again and the iPhone. The reviews are out,
The
so
reviews
we can
are
actually
out.
give.
There's a good reason
there
to
is
keep
reason
talking
for
about
it.
Apple.
I know we're talking about Apple a lot. I'm sorry if you're sick of Apple, but we got to keep doing it, man. People are interested.
They complain that we're ICNet anyway. Just
Yeah,
lean
it's
into
true.
it.
We'll try to get away from the Apple news.
Not this week.
Not this
but,
week. We've
but
probably got a
next
lot more
week.
Apple to go.
No, there
I'm
are a
sorry,
lot of-
Brian. I'm so sorry.
Don't be.
All right,
Just
guys.
let me have my fun.
I know. So we'll be talking about the iPhone reviews, which are the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus review. Obviously, the iPhone 10 is still a ways off, so we can only talk about the current flagships for the next 2 months.
Yeah, which we did get our hands on. So
Yes,
I've
I've got my hands on and played with it. And I haven't had the extensive time that Scott has, but he's got his full review. Also, our photographer James Martin got to spend 72 hours using the iPhone 8 Plus camera. So we'll do a run through of how well the camera has improved over the 7 Plus.
Good luck prying that phone from Scott's cold dead fingers, by the way.
I was using it yesterday. Oops. I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, whatever. I was there at the launch. I used it extensively. Anyway, so as always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Brian will pick out the best, and we will try to answer them in 3 minutes and 59 seconds.
From Apple.
Welcome to the 359. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
The reviews are out, and the iPhone 8 is nice. CNET calls the iPhone 8 Plus the best iPhone you could buy for now. So that is a big question, right? Like, are you going to be waiting to buy the iPhone 10 later, or do you want to buy the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus now, which are cheaper, which have essentially a lot of the same components, really the same cameras? It doesn't have the big design. It's got wireless charging. It's got the water-resistant body. It's got a home button and Touch ID.
Why didn't they call it the iPhone 7S? I feel like the naming doesn't really fit. Exactly.
I agree.
They didn't really change it all that much.
No.
There is a lot of internal components that you just mentioned, and also the wireless charging that does actually justify a newer phone.
Right.
But at the same time, this is more the 7S, and Scott Stein in his review said as much.
Right. And well, look, I think Apple is definitely changing the rules every time they rename one of these phones, or every time they name a new iPhone model, right? With the iPhone 7 last year, technically should have been the big redesign. There was no redesign, but they still called it the 7. So they figured they got away with it last year. Why not just skip the whole S thing and at least subtly suggest to the consumer that this is a big change and thus warrants a full number change as opposed to adding an S to the phone.
Now, going back to what you asked about originally, at the very least, Apple is trying to get as many people as possible to go over to the 8 and the 8 Plus. There really isn't enough supply, but there is a lot of demand for the iPhone 10.
Yep.
But I don't think everybody... The big Apple fans are going to get this phone.
Yes, the hardcore Apple fans will get the iPhone 10. So the folks who are really into tech, into the latest and greatest, will get the iPhone 10. I think for a lot of people who have upgrades and are just looking for a new iPhone, this might actually be a better move for them because it's got the familiar home button. It's got Touch ID. People are very used to that. That's all gone. Like facial recognition is a whole new thing.
Which is going to be on the 10.
Right, and it's a little bit untested. You don't have your muscle memory all set with Touch ID like you have with Touch ID. So, I think for a lot of people, plus the price difference is pretty significant. So, I think for a lot of people, this might be the phone. I mean, the big question, I'm really curious to see what happens on Friday during the launch at those flagship Apple stores.
If it's going to be just as big.
Yeah, will there be
as
any lines at all?
years?
My guess is no. I don't think there are going to be that many lines. I think it's fairly easy to get an iPhone 8. You can pre-order online. I mean, there's some slight delay, but I really wonder how many people are going to show up to an Apple store.
They
on
may
Friday.
just the employees may still go through the motions because this is a new iPhone.
Woo, like the one guy.
Right.
They're like, yeah, come
Way
on
to go, guy.
I mean, there might be people who just buy who show up for those lines and those events and buy all the iPhones. So I'm sure there'll be people there. I don't think it'll be the lines like there used to be.
So one of the other aspects of these phones that I thought was interesting, especially with the Plus, was the camera. So
Yes.
James Martin, our senior photographer out in San Francisco, talked about, he spent 72 hours with this camera. Reading over the story, I was actually quite impressed, and it looked as if they really significantly pushed forward the software
Yep.
and made the most out of that hardware.
It's the same hardware, 12 megapixel camera, but it seemed like there's a lot of computational power went into making these pictures pop a little bit more. You see better textures, the color's a lot more vibrant.
Exactly.
The low light photos, which everyone always makes claims about, it seems like they were pretty legit.
They looked better. I think they were still kind of gimmicky and green screeny, but at the same time, if you are going to get excited about the new phone, I think that is an area that people could potentially
And just
focus
remember,
on.
the iPhone 10, the only difference is optical image stabilization on both lenses, the dual lens. iPhone 8 Plus has essentially the same camera with optical image stabilization on just the one main lens.
Right.
So, all right, that's all the time we have. For more on these stories, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
Thanks for listening.
So before we jump back into the chat and take our current questions, I wanted to revisit our topic from yesterday.
Okay.
We farmed out the question, what would you sacrifice
Yes.
for the iPhone 10?
Kidney. No.
So
No
I got a list of some of my favorites here.
Ooh.
From our commenters?
From our commenters.
Awesome.
I'm not gonna put names to these, but college,
That makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Crunchyroll.
Wait.
Is that a sushi?
You
That's
mean,
the video
you mean
streaming
the
service for
the
anime.
service?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So right on
I was
par with
close.
Netflix, but a little more niche, and I would not give that up.
Really? Do you pay for Crunchyroll?
No.
Come on, look at him.
Kidneys.
Oh, hey, look at that.
Well, kidney-
I knew someone
please.
was going to say.
Somebody
Okay.
specifically said 2 kidneys.
Wow.
To the viewership.
They didn't really
give
think
away
that one
one
through.
kidney. Yeah.
They didn't really think that through. You can live with the one, but give it away 2. You're not gonna be around to use an iPhone.
You're not even gonna have time to upgrade.
Continuing on, Firstborn.
Okay.
Wow,
That's
okay.
that's fair.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
fair.
Yeah. If you plan to have more, it's
I
okay.
would have expected that. Yeah.
My ex.
That's not very nice.
Well, I mean, that's not really a big sacrifice, right?
My Tesla.
What? Wow. You know how many phones you could buy with a Tesla?
Less now.
Yeah, that's true.
And finally, your souls.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which I thought was pretty good.
Good last one.
And it's pretty on spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you agree to a signed contract to give away your soul for an iPhone 10?
Depends on who I'm giving that soul to.
Let's say, like a friend of yours, not Apple. If it was Apple, that would mess
Just like
with
my-
your
Just
objectivity.
like my buddy.
Yeah, but he would own your soul, contractually speaking.
I don't know. I'm not really religious or into like the afterlife, but that still kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies.
I know. I wouldn't.
I don't
do
think
it.
I could do it.
I wouldn't do it. That's just me.
All right, let's start taking some questions from today. Jesse Gaidman, our buddy.
Yeah.
Hey, Jesse.
up, Jesse?
What time can we expect iOS 11 update today? For those of us who can't afford a new iPhone right now, the free software is all we can look forward to.
We don't know for sure. It's a couple hours, but it will be sometime.
Pretty soon.
They never
soonish.
give a concrete
Soonish.
answer, right?
Yeah.
It just kind of happens.
I think traditionally it's happened around noon our time, 9
Yeah,
a.m.
noon.
Pacific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Noon Eastern.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder how many people are going to actually jump the ship and get both phones. Is there anybody out there
get
who would
both?
get some version of the 8 and turn around and get a 10?
Very doubtful.
No.
That's an
Wait,
interesting
why
theory.
would they do that?
I don't know.
Wait, you mean like after they get the 10, would they flip the iPhone 8 or
Oh.
keep them both?
Somebody that obsessed. I'm looking for that
I'm sure
person.
there are obsessed people who
Yeah.
will buy everything, but I don't know. That's a very, very small minority.
Yeah, you would keep the iPhone 8 back home to keep your home.
By the way, I know iOS 11's coming out. I would strongly advise, unless you've got like a spare phone, as Brian was saying, I would strongly advise against downloading iOS 11 that quickly. There are always a few bugs that pop up, at least the first few hours, first day.
I never ever get it on.
I'd wait for it to clear up a little bit. Remember, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago when one of the iOS updates basically bricked your phone.
Yep.
So
Let the
That was
diehards fall on their sword.
There you
and-
go.
Yeah, always trust them. Coleman asks, when will the iPhone 10 be available for pre-order?
it's October 20 something.
No, we've got to pull up our story.
I
Good
know.
question. We just didn't have that information readily
We
available.
should have had that available. I'm sorry. But I
We'll
know
get
it's
back to that
I believe
question.
it's November 4th is the actual release date. Ben, did you yeah.
I'm gonna find it. Just we'll get get to the next question and I'll answer it before then.
Elite Brian Gaming says, why does the iPhone 8 exist?
That's a great question. I would say the iPhone 8 exists because there needs to be a lower end option or a mass market option for a lot of people. And the iPhone 8 is the affordable option. I would argue the iPhone 8 Plus may have less room because it's really kind of in the middle there, and it's sort of, in my mind, I feel like Apple probably wants the iPhone 10 to be the iPhone 8 Plus, but it just,
Which might be the case in future years.
in the future
that's
years
a good
when
point.
when they get enough supply of certain components. But I think the 8 Plus is around because they needed a bigger phone, and they needed a bigger phone that could sell lots of, and that's the 8 Plus. The
Right.
iPhone 10 is going to be supply constrained for a while. So
Yeah, largely because of the OLED screen.
Yeah.
From what we've read
From
about
the
this.
rumors, yes.
Yeah, from the rumors, the Samsung is going to be supplying most of the OLED screens, which is a big problem because they're also Apple's chief rival in
Right.
smartphones. So.
and also it's just a matter of production. I think they just can't make enough.
Right, and if you're Samsung, you're going to give Apple the other OLED screens. You're always going to supply
Theoretically.
your own smartphones.
They always say that no, they try to treat both customers the same, but you never know.
You're your own customer, though.
Right.
Like Samsung is treating its own. So going back to the previous question, this is my story from like the actual launch. The iPhone 10 starts at $999. Don't forget that for the 6 gig version.
64 gig.
64 gig. Thank you very much. Pre-orders start October 27th, and the
there you go.
phone ships, or is at least scheduled to ship, November 3rd.
Oh, I keep thinking November 4th. Why was that? Just a day off.
I don't know.
All right.
I might be completely wrong, but early November at the very least.
I hope you're not wrong because you're reading it off your story.
All right, back into the questions.
Questions.
Jarrett Topping asks, how did the new speakers on the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus sound? We don't have a great answer for that right now. Let's suggest that you come back tomorrow when we
Yeah.
got Scott Stein in the house.
Theoretically, let's not promise it. 'cause
That's
we may
true.
not-
We're hoping to get Scott
We have
on the
asked
show.
him, and
We've asked-
he's the guy who's really spent the most time.
Yes, and Scott should be able to bring the phone. If he comes, he'll have the phone with him. The only issue is Scott's in demand right now. He's doing all kinds of media hits.
That's
you know,
right.
and a Ricky Dicky show like the 359 is fairly low on the totem pole.
Yeah. We'll try to get him over here. We'll entice him with cheese doodles or Doritos or something.
Sure, that would get me going.
Here we go. We got a question from Carlos. He says, I am blind, and since I can't see it, I was wondering, how do you lock or power off the phone?
The iPhone 8 or the iPhone 10?
I'm assuming all of the above since...
There's still a side button that you can lock the phone with.
Correct.
Yeah.
Relating to the iPhone 10.
Well, both.
Yeah.
There's a side button for both that you can lock.
For folks with disabilities are probably not going to notice a significant difference between the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 8
No.
because they're physically largely the same phone, and locking and unlocking it are going to be the same. With the iPhone 10, especially with the
Facial
Face
recognition,
ID,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like that might create some additional
I don't see
complications,
how
but
that
I'm
would
not
be
sure
an
how.
issue. I
Yeah.
mean, they could still set it up just like normal.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. I know like Apple's really done a lot of work to make like voice commands more of a accessible than for the accessibility community. So, but I don't know how the iPhone 10 is how I guess accessibility friendly it is. I imagine it is because they've made a big deal of it in the past, but we don't know yet because we just haven't had enough time with the phone.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question, by the way.
Yeah.
Fantastic question. Apple didn't really give much information on further tech-enable type
No.
progress.
And they have talked about it on stage
They've
in the past.
definitely
past, not
made it
this
a
year.
priority, not this year, and not with this phone. They had a lot to talk about with that phone, so I mean, I could see why they didn't go into all the gritty details of the iPhone 10. We'll get more once we get time with the phone, which we don't have. I think we'll be able to better answer your question, but right now we just sort of have the bare minimum.
Yeah.
G Dash asks, will the wireless charger come with the iPhone 10?
Nope,
Ew.
I don't think so. I don't. Why would Apple pass up on the opportunity to sell you another accessory?
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Ugh.
God.
Hey, look, it does still have the lightning port and a lightning cable. It has that. So
And no
you still
headphone.
have your regular charger, but you do have to buy a wireless charging pad. But
Will
that's
that
not,
become normalcy, though, as
No,
they
that's-
progress away from wired charging? Do you think somewhere down the line that'll be part of the box?
They'd only do it
Maybe.
if they ever remove.
They started including headphones.
If they remove the lightning port, I think they'd have to obviously include a wireless. That's years from now.
Yeah.
If they ever do it, but it's important to know like the other phone makers don't include wireless chargers either.
And, and they're
Samsung,
much more
LG.
expensive than just a cord. That's a significant difference.
Because it's a cord plus a pad. You know, it's more significant.
And
for
it's
sure.
a newer technology, so I'm sure it's way more
It's really
expensive.
not that new, actually. I know Apple wants to say it is, but it's been around for years.
Hey, Matthew Datcher points out, he says, the 359 is rinky dink, not to your fans.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you,
You're-
Mr.
You're the
Datcher.
best. You're the best, Matt.
AI Pimp, what differences is there
Great
in
name.
the A11 Bionic chipset for the example Samsung's newer phones chipset?
Well, the A11 Bionic is custom made by Apple. So
I think it's a 10 nanometer along with the Snapdragon 835 that Samsung is
and
using.
it's basically it's custom. It's a custom tuned engine to run your iPhone, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to Samsung, which uses a stock engine, which admittedly is a very powerful stock engine.
Yeah,
But
like
it runs other phones, so it's may not be as fully suited to Samsung as say the A11 Bionic is to the iPhone.
for regular users, though,
regular-
I would
yeah, you're
say
not gonna notice
you're
the difference.
not going
You're
to
not gonna
notice the
notice,
difference. I
yeah.
mean, like Qualcomm does know how to make chips.
Oh yeah, totally.
And the thing with and this is another thing that regular users aren't going to notice, but Apple has like a separate processor and broadband chip, whereas if you're going to have the 835 from Qualcomm, it's
get it
a
all
system.
together.
It's a system on a chip, so you have them both together, which could potentially create improved computational power.
Right, and theoretically more power efficiency.
More power efficiency, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Theoretically.
Qualcomm has physically made like the broadband chip and the processor work in sync together.
Right.
Maybe better than Apple having two separate chips.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, that's why the Galaxy Note 8 uses a smaller battery than the year earlier model, but still has the same
Punch. Same battery life?
lifespan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a ton of great questions coming in. We're trying to get to as many as we possibly can, but we do have limited time. James Favor has got a quick and easy one. Does the iPhone 8 have Bluetooth 5.0?
Oh.
That's you. Do we know that?
Dang it, it's on the spec page. I don't believe so.
I don't think
I'll
so.
see if
either,
I can
from what
find it.
remember
I
in
didn't
reading.
see a reference to Bluetooth
While
5.0
we're looking,
at least.
while we're looking that up, James Favor asks, do you think Apple will do what Samsung did at the moment and create types of flagships like an S8 versus Note 8? Now that we've seen an 8 and a 10, i.e. X, you think they're going to like kind of subdivide that out?
No,
That's a really good question, I think.
No,
Yeah, I agree. That's a good question.
I don't think they will because they tend to launch all their phones at one go, whereas Samsung has a kind of predictable strategy where it's like first half of the year it's the GS line, second half it's the Note line. So Apple, I think, unveils all of its phones, so you kind of know right off the bat, like that's the flagship phone. The 10 is the flagship phone, and then everything else is kind of the bargain or the mid-tier phone. But the lineups are very similar now, right? You've got the GS8 and the GS8 Plus, which are akin to the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 8 Plus, and then you've got the Note 8, which is akin to the iPhone 10. So similar lineup, but since Apple kind of unloads them all at once, you kind of know what the flagship phone is. Whereas Samsung is like, this GS8 Plus is the flagship phone for the next 4 or 5 months until the Note 8 comes out.
With the delayed launch for the iPhone 10, I do see at least the potential for maybe them to change it up in future years. But I totally hear what you're saying as far as them at least announcing all the phones at the same time.
Najib in the chat asks, what will Apple do next year? Just release iPhone X2 and lower the price of the 8?
I'm really curious if iPhone 10 sticks around or if they go back to a normal naming scheme like iPhone
We all hope they do.
I kind of think they
11,
would.
iPhone 11 Plus.
I kinda
they
think
can't
they
do
would-
iPhone 9 now, right? iPhone
Right.
9's out the window.
I think they.
I disagree.
I don't know.
There will
Wait.
be an iPhone 9
No,
somewhere.
why would they sell an iPhone 9 if
I
there's
think they
already
break
an iPhone 10?
nomenclature. I think they break nomenclature.
To the new iPhone. Like
This
the
is
They're just
Yeah.
going to jump to iPhone 13 or something. You know,
just gonna call it the
mess with
I.
us. Yeah.
Let's go minimal. like
Screw it,
Hollywood.
we're going to 15.
By the way,
after
it does
the
look
anniversary. This is the reboot, I think.
it does look like there's Bluetooth 5.0
okay.
and Key. Did I pronounce that correctly? Wireless
Oh, yeah,
charging.
Bluetooth 5.0.
Chi.
Yeah. Qi. Thank you. I knew I got that wrong.
I get it wrong too. I still correct myself
And I have to correct him.
because I grew up on Kung Fu movies.
Nice.
Jarrett Topping, why do you think the iPhone X did not come with a higher resolution screen?
iPhone 10.
See,
I keep doing it.
iPhone
It's
10
me
does
too.
it's hard. I read it literally. I'm sorry.
Same here.
Well,
Same
the
here.
iPhone 10
And it
does.
sounds cooler.
It does have a high resolution screen though.
It does have a higher resolution screen. Scott mentions.
Why
in his
not
review.
still higher?
It's,
Oh, why
it's
not
And
not an
also
OLED screen.
also a brighter nit screen.
Oh, I can't answer as to why Apple decided not to make a brighter screen.
Got to get somebody in here. Let's
I
call
mean,
Tim.
you can mess with the brightness of it, but I mean, like if you've been buying Samsung and I think LG phones,
Yeah.
you've been getting OLED screens for years now.
Yeah.
You have to spend $1,000 for the iPhone 10 to get it, but they did improve the screen to a certain extent. The
Yes,
iPhone,
it's
I'm
definitely
reading
better.
from Scott's review,
More
the
pe-
iPhone 8 has an improved iPad-style True Tone screen. So you're probably going to get some level of improvement there
Wait for the 8.
for the 8.
Yeah, but it's not high resolution.
No, and it's not
it's,
OLED.
It's basically more accurate colors.
All right, let's fire through a few quick rapid fire
do it.
ones. As iOS 11 rolls out today, do we have any concerns over older models, specifically in the chat, the 6? Is the 6 going to experience any slowdown with the OS
Is
update?
the 6 going to get sick? Good question.
Get out.
But there you go. Just leave. I would be concerned a little bit. I mean, they've done a good job recently with their updates to kind of make things a little bit
Better than
streamlined.
historical,
Yeah.
at least my personal experience.
I'd be a little wary if I've got one of the older phones on upgrading so quickly. I would probably wait it out and just see what the reviews say.
The 6 is 2 years old.
I know, right?
6? 3 years old.
Oh,
at this
you're right,
point.
you're right, you're
Oh,
right. It's
6S,
3.
yeah.
Yeah.
Still, 3-year-old phone, like it should be able to run the latest version of iOS.
You would
Look,
think.
one might argue that Apple is doing that kind of thing on purpose to slow down
Ooh,
the
conspiracy
older
theory.
phones. But who would ever think such a thing?
Horrendous.
That's
There
really
you go,
just
yeah.
unseemly.
That's outrageous.
Another great question from Jesse Gaidman. Do you think Apple will drop another color iPhone 10 next year like they did with the red iPhone 7 earlier this year?
Yeah, I think that's highly plausible.
Been maintained that pretty
Yes.
well. I
Yeah,
think.
And
yeah.
charge twice as
I was
much.
actually a little annoyed that they went back to just 2 colors.
charity,
for the
Ben.
iPhone 10. It's only like white and black.
Yeah.
Psh. Or silver and black, I think, right?
I don't
Space
know.
gray. Sorry, space gray
They
and
all have
silver.
weird-
I got the colors completely wrong.
It's okay.
Space gray, which I think is black, and then silver, which I thought was white. So
I mean, you were kind of right.
yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, I hope they add another color.
Like magenta and like
No, not magenta.
very light blue. I'm going back to the what is it? The 5C colors, because that was a plastic bag.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those were
terrible. No one bought those.
Yeah.
There was actually a question that surfaced up on our review video that I thought was kind of interesting, and I want to bring it back up for Scott tomorrow. But somebody asked why none of the review units are in fact like the space gray or anything besides the standard black or white colors that are floating out there.
Well, the review units we got were like the gold one, right?
Yeah.
It's the- I
Or
guess-
the blush, whatever it is
yeah,
now.
I mean, usually Apple likes to hand out the latest colors. That's why they don't. I think there's also I think they sometimes ask. I don't even know how it really works, but I think for photography, just to distinguish that this is a new phone, the preference is always to use the new color.
Right.
Right.
That makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple more. Ryan Linder asks, do you think if they figure out the fingerprint ID under the screen, they would ditch Face ID on the next iPhone?
Ooh.
So why push Face ID? Is it because they just had to put out a new phone? Lame.
Ooh.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories about that. I
Would
think
Face ID be easier technically than Touch ID?
I don't know. I like Touch ID. I'll be honest.
I definitely like Touch ID.
But I like his point. Why push out this radically different thing if they're just going to backpedal to it later?
So I don't.
And
think,
again, that's just hearsay. That's theoretical.
I think it's a little limiting to think that this camera that they put into their phone is just for Face ID. As Scott's brought up this point, I tend to agree that the camera is sophisticated enough to read depth, and I think next year they may double down, and we may see something like that in the rear camera, because that stuff is really good for augmented reality, which is a technology they really want to push. I don't think they probably were able to kind of fit it all in the one phone this time around, but I have to imagine that it's not just Face ID. It's for augmented reality. It's for all kinds of uses that we haven't even figured out yet. So I think that's going to stick around. I really do hope that they figure out Touch ID underneath the screen. I don't know if they're going to do it. I think a lot of it's going to depend on the consumer reaction to Face ID? If people like really hate it,
There
or if it
seems to
doesn't
be
work?
some skepticism already. The thing is that the way that this is being targeted as more of an even more premium tier model,
Yeah.
the people that are buying it are already very loyal to Apple, so they're
Right.
not that concerned, I would think, or they're not as concerned about these privacy issues because otherwise they wouldn't be buying that phone in the first place.
Adam says they aren't going to get rid of Face ID. They need your face feature in a file for when Big Brother needs you.
Yeah.
Well,
No, I mean, like, but,
you know,
but there's a
to
lot
be
of
fair,
that that's
Apple's
floating
been
out there.
really good at like fighting the government in terms of like divulging your identity and your information.
Right, is
Apple
true.
versus FBI.
But versus the fingerprint
That
stuff,
doesn't mean they're not going to clone you.
True.
It's
in
I-
the terms of agreement actually. When you
I
sign
just
on.
think that
we can clone you at any
Remember
given
that
time.
iTunes thing you've been
Yeah,
ignoring for 10
exactly.
years?
Terms
The-
of service,
the terms of
man.
service?
No one ever reads those things.
I just think like the facial recognition stuff has been floating in sci-fi for so long. That's a
Yeah.
lot of why people are being so hesitant about it. Whereas fingerprints are used for a lot of things, and they've been used for a
Well,
long
I mean,
time.
the thing is, when Touch ID was first introduced, there was a lot of skepticism and there was a lot of concerns about whether or not that was going to be secure. And now it's sort of commonplace. I mean, just like online shopping, right? There's always that initial period of trepidation. For me, maybe it just gets smoother over time as Touch ID did, but like the way I used it, it seemed clunkier than just pulling out of my pocket with my finger on the Touch ID sensor already and then having it ready to go. It
As
just
opposed
didn't-
to, like,
as opposed
having it
to,
in
like,
place and
having
then-
to stare at my phone, watching the thing go unlock, and then
swiping up.
The
That's a
extra
good
swipe
point.
that maybe if they remove that extra swipe move, then would be fine. Like it basically jumps.
but
to
it
the
would be
homepage.
less secure. That's the problem.
Yep.
Is that
But
I
is it
think
less
that-
secure? Because
okay.
you've unlocked the phone already.
If you accidentally look at it.
If you accidentally look at it, if one of your kids
I know, but if
gets
you
it,
look at it and it's unlocked, someone else can just swipe and you're good
there's
to go.
I think that there's a very intentional reason why they included the swipe because you've already unlocked it with your face. Why include the swipe then?
Right. That's
So I think that they're
that's the
still
issue
trying
I
to.
have.
I think they're still trying to play with figuring
Maybe
out
it's a
how
setting
it
you could
would be
disable.
used. Yeah, and if they put Touch ID in the screen, then you could disable it, and you wouldn't be losing much.
Right. I mean, the iPhone, the Touch ID, if you remember, like the setting that most people disabled was like you had to not only push your finger there, but you had to hit the home button once to actually get into the home screen.
Mm-hmm.
And most people disabled that right away because that was an extra step. And so maybe it's just a tweak in the settings menu.
Breaking news, Apple just announced next year coming Thought ID. All you have to
Thought
do is think about
Ooh.
your phone, and it's going to open up. I like Mr. Hill's comment. Says, will Apple also be releasing tinfoil hats for those people still afraid of Face ID? All right. We're almost out of time here.
Yeah.
Ariel
Ouch.
Lee, do you think the next iPhone will have a screen like the iPhone 10? I think they've kind of set precedent in that.
Yeah, I think so.
And then lastly, Synergy Media, what do you think will be the pre-order availability for the iPhone 10 compared to the 8 and 8 Plus due to the price discrepancy?
Very limited.
No, it's going to be really hard to get.
Yeah.
Regardless of the price, supply is not out there. So the 8 Plus has gone, 8 and 8 Plus have gone really smoothly. I mean, I think there's some minor delays, but I think the 10 is going to be horrendous.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
if you're like dying to buy the 10, you may have to get it on a secondary market
Ooh.
for a lot less money, for a lot
Ew.
more money.
Apple Black
Yeah.
Market?
Yeah.
Yep.
No. We'll
All
try
right.
to link you up with that if we can.
Anyways,
And we know Roger's got the hookup.
let's wrap things up. If you liked anything you saw or heard here, check us out on CNET. Our podcast is also available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Feedburner, and Google Play Music. See you all tomorrow.
Thanks, y'all. See you
A little bit
tomorrow.
late.
Oh, yeah. Tomorrow we are going to be later than usual.
Yeah. So-
Probably
And
closer
maybe
to,
with Scott.
closer to 3 o'clock Eastern Standard, we
Yep.
believe. So,
All right.
see
See you
then.
tomorrow.